Hello, I'm back doing DNA studies again. So let me get started here. Share screen. And where do we go here? Well, we had the Y chromosome, right? Dr. Nathaniel Jensen, sorry for the noise. Dr. Nathaniel Jensen is doing a great job on the Y chromosome studies around the world. He's been going through Asia, the Polynesia, Micronesia, Polynesia, and the Papua New Guineas and things like that. And he touched on of course, the CY chromosome. In case you don't know what the CY chromosome is, oops, right here. Aborigines are C. Mongolians are C. And American Indians are C. All the way down to the northern tip of South America. They're C. CY chromosomes, possibly Nimrod, the descendants of Nimrod, who is a descendant of Ham. Besides that, they have the D. Dr. Nathaniel Jensen pointed out that the Andamanese on an island here are D. They're very dark skin colored, and we also have their descendants are way up here in Paleo-Siberia. That's D2. And we have them in Tibet and Burma, D1, D3. Of course, this is another descendant of Ham. Not sure who it is yet, but I'm pretty sure the C would be Nimrod. So, and of course the D is found over up here in the Paleo-Siberian, the Joman or Jaman, and the Japanese, New Japanese, Joman. Population of Dr. Jensen said it's about a third of the population of the Japanese. So we're looking at that. So, but what I was wondering was how did they get the if C is sort of a flat nose and Q is sort of a small nose, where did the big-nosed Indians come from? As it turns out, if you look at the mitochondrial DNA, it might answer the question. Because now all of this, I just verified that all of this is Semitic. The N would be NIWAXYRB These would be all Semitic maternal lines. How do I know they're Semitic? It's because when I go here to this Ashkenazi Jew DNA, when I do lose it, oh, here it is. You'll find here an A, a B, and H. So where do we find the A, B, and H? A is a Semitic line. B is a Semitic line. H is a Semitic line. Of course, a big population, big chunk is H. I don't know who's that, Rachel? Might be Rachel. Just guessing here. But and then there's HV. Where is HV found? Right here, Semitic. And there's I and J, not to be confused with the Y chromosome I and J. I don't know why they have it so confusing, but I is right after N, so that's still Semitic. And J is Semitic too. And K, K, L, and M, and N. So we got K right here, L, where's L? L, well, we know what L is. L is African, Hamite. So it'll be that was the K, L, and M. And the M, we know what the M is. The M is the Japhethite right here. So we have the L and the M, which are not Semitic. Mitochondrial DNA in the Ashkenazi group. So the L and the M are not Semitic. N, of course, is Semitic. And the R and the T are both Semitic. And the U and the V. So it'd be the U and the V are Semitic. And the W and the X. So we have the X and the W are Semitic. So the only ones that are not Semitic would be the L and the M, which is, kind of strongly suggesting that all of this in here is Semitic. And of course, even if these aren't all represented in the Ashkenazi or the Jewish people, they're still Semitic of one kind or another. Because Semitic is not just Abraham. We have the Gypsies and the Dravidians, they're Semitic. So we have more than that. But it does suggest that, especially with this H here, very large population of H, which is 25% or so. The H. Okay, the HV is pretty big. 25.91%. HV is 5%. Okay, so it's a big chunk right there. My mtDNA would be H3G. So that's my mtDNA. Not mine, but my mother's mtDNA. But since I have an X chromosome, one X chromosome, one Y chromosome, I have the mitochondrial. That'd be from my mother, right? I guess. Anyway, so I have the X and the Y, and so that pretty much. So the thing I wanted to point out here is that according to the the fantasy of evolution paradigm, they have everybody. It doesn't show it here, but they have everybody being descended from Africans. But the order that they have it is that they have the Africans, from the Africans descended the Semites, from the Semites descended the Japhethites. When you look at the mitochondrial DNA, they have it in this order, the reverse order. From the Africans, which is L1, 2, and 3, you have the Japhethite women descended from the Africans first, and then from the Japhethite women, they have the Semitic N descending from the Japhethite women. So they have it mixed up. How can you have the Y chromosomes descending first the Africans, then the Semitics, and then the Japhethites, and then the mitochondrial, they have the Africans, the Japhethites, and then the Semitics? That just debunks the out of Africa belief right then and there. Mic drop. So, but of course, this is not new to us, because look at this. See this Uzbekistan thing here? See everybody represented here? Same thing would be here. If we go to this mtDNA, is this? Yeah, this is Y chromosome, right? You go to the Y chromosome, you have see the Uzbekistan again. See this huge variety here in this area. Of course, this is where the Ark landed. Modern Turkey's over here, but the Cradle of Civilization is in here somewhere. I mean, it's this way. It's on, see, this is the Arabian Peninsula here. This is Middle East here. I mean, Israel here. And over here is the Cradle of Civilization, where the Ark landed, near where the Ark landed. Ark landed up here somewhere. But anyways, you have a huge variety of people in this area of the Y chromosome. Same thing with the mtDNA, Uzbekistan again, huge variety of people of the mtDNA concentrated in this area, this whole area. And of course, they spread out from here. Blues, light blues went this way. These greens went this way. These light purples went this way. The dark purples went this way. Or is that the same thing? Anyway, but they spread out from here. And of course, with the mtDNA, the L1, 2, and 3 all went to Africa and stayed in Africa. All these L1, L2, and L3s, the mitochondrial DNA went to Africa and stayed in Africa. and are not represented here. But when you go to the Y chromosome, you have the Hamitic A, B, C, D, and E. A, B, C, D, and E. In Africa, you only have the A, B, and the E represented. Now, they keep trying to say that there's a D somewhere here, but the only D that I can see in Africa is this dotted line, which is an imaginary migration route of the DE and the C. So the C. So obviously the C went this way, but I think C is Nimrod. The D, I'm not sure which one it is, but I know the E is probably Mitzrayim. And then you have the A and the B. But because of the large genetic distance of certain African tribes, they extrapolate that to mean that they're an older lineage. But what it really amounts to is a faster reproductive rate. So yeah, I was listening to Dr. Nathaniel Jensen, and what is it here? And he was going through this. First, he started talking about the languages. Not too much interested in the languages, although it's interesting. I mean, I like languages. Then he gets into the DNA here.
And of course, when he arrives, he encounters people who look nothing like him, the Australian Aborigines. And it's not just Australia where Europeans encounter folks who look much different from them. It's Papua New Guinea. They look different. And of course, Polynesia, Micronesia have a much more Asian look. None of these people have European looks. And to look at more modern examples, again, these people today look nothing like Europeans. And if we didn't know any better, we might look at some of these Polynesians and wonder if they didn't have an East Asian connection because of the obvious physical similarities. Well, why would we talk about any of this if our larger question is the question of the origin of the first peoples of the Americas? Well, why would we talk about these sorts of peoples? Obviously, there's a physical connection between some of the Polynesians, and you can see obvious physical resemblances between Polynesians and today's Native Americans. But as we've discovered in this series, today's Native Americans are the product of a more recent migration. And they underwent a major population collapse. East Asia didn't undergo such a major population collapse where maybe 90% of the people died out. There was Black Death in Asia at some point, but China is still over 1 billion people strong. Among the natives, though, of the Pacific, there is evidence for population collapses there due to similar reasons. Europeans coming over, perhaps inadvertently bringing diseases to which the natives were not resistant. And so some of them died out as well. And this has the consequence of obscuring some of their history. So what is the history of the Pacific and Papua New Guinea and Australia before the arrival of Europeans? And might it reveal some connections to early America? Last episode, we looked at 3 major disciplines of science to look for clues to a different question: the history of those who arrived in the early AD era. Could we glean something from these same 3 fields?
Okay, I want to skip the languages.
There's a subgrouping here that joins Madagascar, Indonesia, the Philippines. There's subgroupings that join the Pacific Islands, subgroupings here and here. Notice that they skirt Papua New Guinea, avoid Australia. And these linguistic groupings roughly fit the major divisions we looked at earlier. Micronesia, Polynesia are joined linguistically, but they're separate from Melanesia by and large, Papua New Guinea and Australia. And they tend to roughly fit these physical different groupings. Polynesians obviously have a look like this. This is a Maori girl from New Zealand. and she has a more Asian look. The Melanesians, like the Papua New Guineans, the Aboriginal Australians, have a much more, I'd say, an African look, with darker skin and very tight curly hair. These sort of language groupings and linguistic data have been combined with archaeology by mainstream scientists to come up with a model for the settling of the Pacific. There was a resettling momentarily, but just based on linguistics. There's a bunch of different deep language families in New Guinea. There's a deep linguistic origin for Australia, and this seems to fit this relative Papua New Guineans, Melanesians first, and then the Austronesians and Polynesians later. What about genetics, though? This is where it gets very interesting and may illumine potential connections to the early Americas. Let's begin with this study. Notice that they don't sample any groups in the Pacific, again, because they're where the people are, and historically, again, this has been neglected because there haven't been that many people in the Pacific. So instead, we're going to turn to this study, which does sample. So this particular study tried to get as broad an ethnic sampling of the globe, but perhaps a shallow look. There's more Southeast Asian groups, there's Filipino groups, there's New Guinea groups. We'll talk about this, as well as some of the other groups from other studies. We're just going to begin here, though. And what I want us to look at first, notice I've colored groups from Oceania in dark purple. We want to find spots on this tree where the dark purple peoples are, and there's two spots. If you're able to look close, you might not see it based on the level of zooming I have here. There's a group up here, and there's a group down here. I'm going to begin with the upper ones. And you might recall from previous episodes that we've been assigning letters and names and such, which seems somewhat arbitrary to these various groups. But there is a method to this madness. Mainstream scientists have a system to doing it. We've talked about how the very deep branches in the tree get assigned, first of all, a letter of the alphabet, an uppercase letter of the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, so forth. Then, if these very deep branches break up into subgroups, you assign a number. So we've talked about the group R and group R1, R2. And then if that gets broken up even further, it's R1A, R1B. So it's letters, numbers, and so forth. That's the system that they have for assigning.
And this is the Y chromosome, of course.
Yeah. And what we see here is that there's so many deep groupings in the Pacific, they're assigned separate letters. There's S, there's K, there's M. In Europe, we talk about R1B, a very specific subgrouping being dominant in Western Europe. In the Pacific alone, in Papua New Guinea, you have multiple deep branchings, and they're assigned these separate letters.
There's a genetic distance.
Dr. Jensen, just to clarify here for those that may not have seen some of the previous episodes, this is all based on research conducted on differences and similarities in the Y chromosome inherited through the male, correct?
Exactly. This is Y chromosome based, and this tree is reconstructed based on how many differences and similarities. So when I say there's a deep branching, it means there are huge differences in the Y chromosome, the male inherited DNA, between, if we can zoom in here momentarily just to see who these people are, the Kosipi, the dark purple, are the Papua New Guineans. The Agta are people from the Philippines. The Aeta are from the Philippines. Lebo and Baho are also close by, just to put them on the map here, in Indonesia. So even though they're geographically close, they have tremendous genetic differences among them. There's a huge number of Y chromosome differences, even though they're geographically very close. Physically, the Papua New Guineans, of course, have this, what I'm going to say is a sort of an African look, with dark skin, African-like features and hair and nose and lips and such. Indonesians, many of them have more of an Asian look. Well, the Filipinos do as well, yet the specific Filipino peoples that we looked at are called Negrito groups because they have an African appearance to them. They're a small minority in the Philippines, but there are dark-skinned, curly-haired people in the Philippines. That's who these Agta and Aeta peoples are, and they're right next to on the tree, these Indonesians. And when I say next to, it's a very deep next to. They're next to geographically, yet they don't have these common ancestors until pre-1000 BC, which is remarkable. So geographically close, they're neighbors, yet genetically on this Y chromosome tree, the differences are enormous and indicate a very deep, ancient history, which again seems to fit what we've been discussing
which is a large genetic distance. Genetic distance is the number of mutations between the lines. So there's a lot. Large genetic distance means there's a lot of mutations, a large number of mutations between the groups.
And archaeologically, the settlement of the Pacific, the Polynesian settlement, happens late in history. The Melanesian settlement, and notice that these arrows pass through Indonesia, happens very early. So that's where we're at so far. Now, it raises some questions. Why do we have lighter skinned Asian looking peoples as part of this ancient mix? I thought linguistically Indonesia was tied to Madagascar over here and some of the Pacific Islands and Polynesians. Why would they have this deep heritage? Well, if you look at some of the peoples of Indonesia, you might notice that they seem to have what could be perhaps African-looking Papua New Guinea type features. This is one particular tribe in Indonesia.
I don't want to say it looks like the former president of the United States, but
these three gentlemen are all part of the same tribe. Yet if you look carefully at their faces, there's some significant differences. There's diversity even within this single Indonesian tribe. Look at his eyes. Look how East Asian they appear. Yet look at the noses and the lips of these gentlemen. Are those African in origin? I'm going to show you two slides now in which I keep the lady on the left, who's Chinese, and the gentleman on the right, who's Papua New Guinean, the same. But the middle person is going to be an Indonesian in each case, but a different Indonesian. There are some Indonesians who bear obvious resemblance to East Asia. Not identical. Obviously, his nose, his lips are different from this lady's facial structure, but his eyes, his skin tone look East Asian. Yet there are other Indonesians who, if we didn't know any better, look like they're a mix
if we didn't
of
know
perhaps
any better,
Asian features, and yet have strong resemblances,
like someone
nose,
we
lips,
know.
and such, perhaps skin tone to the Papua New Guineans. Well, that's not accidental, I don't think. We've looked so far at one of the genetic branches that show up in Papua New Guinea. Now I want to look at another one that might give us some hints as to why these physical similarities and differences exist in people groups that are geographically very close. So let's move our attention now down to here. Purple shows up down here, this deep purple that I'm labeling Oceania. This is part of a larger group that we call Group C. So again, it's a different letter because it's got a deep connection. Group C has a diversity of peoples on it. Let's zoom in.
And you should know who Group C is. Group C is probably Nimrod. He's a descendant of Ham. He's a Hamite.
And see who they are, and then look at their connections and see what this means historically. Notice that again, this royal blue indicates East Asian, Southeast Asian. You might not recognize these names. Marut is Indonesian. Aeta, again, are these Negrito, African-looking peoples in the Philippines. Lebo is Indonesian. What's this? This is light green. This is South Asian, India and such. There's an Indian person that shows up in this lineage. And in fact, there is a whole group of South Asians that have a deep connection in this Group C. Dusun and Baho are again Indonesians. Here's the purple.
And those would probably be the link to India, where they said that a lot of Aborigines have a link to India.
And if we go down here on these branches, pink is Siberia. There's a whole bunch of Siberian groups. Light green is Central Asian. So you might not recognize these names. Just recognize that they're pink.
That would be the Mongolians.
They're Siberian. Kazakhs, you might recognize that name, Central Asian. There's this big Siberian branch that's part of the tree.
There you go, Mongolians.
Now, the date, and again, you can see here there's a big deep blue branch, a deep green branch, blue. The Papua New Guineans show up here again. If we brought in data from other studies, you can see there would be deep Australian Aborigine branches here. There's a deep Siberian branch. This splitting up happens around 800 BC. Now again, depending on where you put Noah, that date changes some. The point is it happens after the dates we saw in this other branching. It seems to be a second diversification event, which may have some echo in what Ken referred to in the Australian Aboriginal legends. There were people here before. Well, what does this mean? How can we understand these deep branching events? So again, notice what's happening here. Around 800 BC, or sometime in the distant past, there's a South Asian lineage that emerges. There's a Southeastern Asian lineage, Indonesian lineages that emerge. If we had more other groups that we brought in here, there'd be Australian Aborigine and Papua New Guinean lineages that emerge. There's a Siberian lineage that emerges. So let's put these on the map, combining this study along with others around.
And of course, the sea goes all the way to the Americas and down through the Americas all the way to the northern tip of South America.
Around 800 BC, after the settling of Papua New Guinea and Australian Aborigines, there's a diversification event where you have an ancient lineage that shows up in Siberia and Central Asia. If we brought in other data, you'd see a Japanese lineage. You'd see, again, Southeast Asian, Papua New Guinean, Aborigine. There's South Asian. So it appears to be a migration event where these groups spread out, and these lineages appear then to be restricted. After they split, there's a lineage that seems to be restricted to Japan, restricted to Siberia and Central Asia, restricted to India, restricted. They spread out and then take up their roots, spread out, and then plant new roots elsewhere in these locations. So what in the world is going on here? Who's the one who's spreading out? Where do these people come from, and why do they end up in these locations? Looking at how the geography is spread out here, does it mean that there's a Filipino group, Indonesian group that's spreading out in all directions? Do you take the bullseye center and attribute it that way so that there's a second group that then moves into Australia and Papua New Guinea? I want to take a deeper look at this. Again, this study doesn't sample any groups in the Pacific, but it does have people who are in group C. I'm bringing up this study because it also has people in group D, which are close by. In this particular study, group D has a very strong echo, and in the study, the only echo in Japan. I think it's about a third of Japan. And when I had this study in hand, I thought, oh, this just must be an ancient Japanese lineage. Well, lo and behold, if you look more broadly in the globe, and especially at some of these neglected minority groups, there is a group of people in the Andaman Islands. You've probably never heard of these before, unless you studied South Asian history. They belong, I think, to India. The great Andamanese peoples do not look like Indians, like South Asians. They look like Africans. They're very dark-skinned, dark-haired, curly-haired. They look like African peoples, and they show up, so they're nearly extinct. The males that we've been able to sample show up in group D. They share a common ancestor with the Japanese people, and they share a common ancestor around the same time that we saw this migration event in group C. So what in the world is going on here? Let's add this to the map. I'm going to color them purple because they have this obvious physical resemblance to peoples right here. So you have, in ancient times, something that's probably never been documented in history, but from genetics, we have an event for some dispersal of peoples, not the Babel dispersal. This is after that. This is at least 1,000 years after that, and at least 1,000 years after the initial settling of Papua New Guinea and Australia. So what in the world is going on here? In this study, the group C peoples show up down here. C and D show up down here. Sub-Saharan African peoples show up right here. And Sub-Saharan
Notice the genetic distance of the sub-Saharan African, or at least some of them, or many of them. They have a fast reproductive rate, which accounts for the large genetic distance.
People show up only there. If we go to this study, again, I mentioned you can find, even though you don't have the Papua New Guineans and such, you do have peoples that are part of groups C and D, and you have a much better sampling of Africa. So groups C and D show up there. Sub-Saharan Africa shows up there, and only there. And from my perspective, if you look at the distribution of sub-Saharan Africans in these lineages, I'm still at the zoomed out scenario, but I'm doing this because I want you to see that C and D are almost swallowed up in sub-Saharan Africa. You could make the case that they look like they're African descendants. Again.
Okay, and the C and the D aren't in Africa. The C and the D went the other way. They never went towards Africa. They not represented in Africa or near Africa. That's why I think that C might be Nimrod, who was like in Babylon or somewhere. And Mitzrayim went to Africa. Mitzrayim settled Africa with his mother, whose name is Egyptus. So, and all the Hamite women went and settled in Africa and stayed there. So, but the C and the D never appears in Africa.
Guineans show up in S, K, and M up here. So I would argue that genetically there's definitely evidence for an initial, very early settling of Papua New Guinea and Australian Aborigines. But could there be a second settling? Again, we've looked at in group C a distribution. It seems to be in 800 AD, C and D. There's something that happens where people spread out all across South, East, North Asia, as well into the Pacific. So what's going on? Is this an Indonesian group that spreads out? Could this be dark-skinned peoples, African peoples, who moved into Africa and then decided to move back out of Africa and keep going?
Yeah, he's saying something like they moved out of Africa, but I don't think they ever even went to Africa because they're not represented anywhere near Africa.
When we think about these ethnic or so-called racial components, remember again the Pacific Australian Aborigines, historically, at least in a traditional sense, have been viewed as people poor. They've always been a very small part of the global world population. And if you think about what we discussed in episodes 3 and 4, where ethnic change can happen faster than we think about the math of reproductive growth, these dark-skinned peoples have historically been very few in number. So let's think about it. One hypothesis: is this ancient migration event, 800 BC? They're spreading out. Could it be a dark-skinned peoples? Well, if it was a migration of dark-skinned peoples from the Pacific, a region of the globe where they've always been few in number, what we're talking about most likely then would be a migration of a small number of people into South Asia, East Asia, Siberia, Japan, where they're probably the minority population. And based on the genetics that we discussed in episodes 3 and 4, their descendants would probably not look dark-skinned and dark-haired. They'd blend into the dominant population. Yet they could end up leaving, genetically, descendants in which their heritage is obviously coming from the Pacific. My point.
And if you notice, a lot of the Indonesians and people who may not even look African, may not even have darker skin, but they do still have some African features like the nose and the lips, like he was saying.
If this is a migration of dark-skinned peoples in 800 BC, and I'm suspicious that it is, you would not see dark-skinned peoples in these other regions of the globe because simple math. However, you could still see this heritage being dark-skinned. Here's another geographic clue I want to bring into the equation. Again, dark-skinned peoples, and I've been using the term African, dark-skinned peoples show up heavily in sub-Saharan Africa. Well, how interesting is that? Each of these peoples, here, and I'm talking about the Negrito, the Aeta, the Agta peoples who look like Africans, and here, all of these dark-skinned, dark-haired peoples, and also over here, not only do they share some morphological similarities, they all have ancient lineages. I mentioned that this S and K and M lineages exist in Papua New Guinea, and my guess is actually that, so here you've got dark-skinned peoples, the Aeta and Agta here. This is dark-skinned, this is dark-skinned, this is dark-skinned. I'm suspicious that these Indonesians even though they may look light-skinned, are probably the result of intermixing. I mean, they're right.
Okay, notice he's talking about these are dark skinned, but their P and S are Japhethites. They're not Hamites, the Y chromosome. So these people in these areas were influenced or by the dark skin color of the Hamites, even though the Y chromosome is Japhethite.
Papua New Guinea. So my guess is these are probably light-skinned, but originally Papua New Guinean peoples. They have a very ancient lineage. The Andamanese peoples are part of this ancient migration event. You can ask the question, are these originally dark-skinned peoples who make their way into Japan, or originally Japanese Asian peoples who make their way into the great Andaman Islands? I'm suspicious
They're also represented in Tibet and Burma too, as well.
that it's the former, that it's dark-skinned peoples who eventually make their way into Japan, so that some Japanese peoples actually have dark-skinned heritage. Same thing then for India and Indonesia and Siberia. My suspicion is these are dark-skinned peoples originally. This is an ancient dark-skinned lineage that spreads out, and then today, because of just the math and the genetics that we discussed, look Asian or Indian or these so forth. Again, they're swallowed up in sub-Saharan Africa. We'll talk about in future episodes how Africa also has a very ancient genetic lineage. How intriguing that these regions of the globe, the Andaman Islands, some of the Filipinos, again the dark-skinned ones, New Guinea, Australia, sub-Saharan Africa, all of these have a certain morphological tie-in, physical similarity, and they have an ancient genetic heritage. And also, they exist at a similar latitude.
Now check this out. He's going to point something out interesting about some South American people, which were there, but they're not there today. But they left carvings.
So here is a narrative hypothesis that seems to be emerging. Could all of these connections, genetically and physical, be due to a lot of early migration activity? Whatever the exact explanation is, we know, first of all, that there's ancient lineages in these spots, and there is a lot of ancient migration activity. Regardless of what the actual origin of this activity is, there's a lot of movement going on in the ancient past, more than we ever thought. Could it be that there were, after Babel, some people moving down into Africa, some people moving here, and maybe after Babel, some people continuing to move this direction? Well, what's to stop them from continuing to move eastward? If there were people that went this way and then went this way, and we know there's a lot of migration happening, what's to stop these dark-skinned peoples from continuing their migrations in the eastward direction? Well, if they did that, that would bring them to the shores of the Americas. The earliest peoples are the Olmecs that we find archaeological evidence for, not necessarily a household name, but their carvings are something our viewers might be familiar with. How intriguing that the physical features on these carvings, look at the shape of the nose, the eyes, the lips, seem to find an echo in modern day Indonesia. And I've argued that some of these Indonesians look like they're the product
like somebody would know.
of mixing between Asian groups and Papua New Guineans, and the Papua New Guineans being some of the earliest. After the Olmecs come the Mayans. They have a BC era origin archaeologically, a late BC, shortly before the time of Christ, and they, of course, continue into the AD era. Based on their carvings, to me, they look like they have more of the Asian look.
Okay, this is what was bothering me, or I was trying to figure out was how did these native South Americans and even North Americans come to have a nose like that, which is fairly large and seems to have a bend in it. And that's when I looked at the mtDNA, and I saw that in the Americas you have represented are Semitic. The U here is Semitic. The red, the B, is Semitic. The blue is not. The blue is Japethite, the M. And this darker color here is Japethite too. So, but there is a strong influence here of this red and this light purple color, whatever it is, which could be the reason for the influence of the Semitic nose, and that's probably where it comes from. Because ever since I was in South America a long time ago, I always knew that in South America there's two kinds of indigenous people. There's the Native American Indians with a smaller nose, and then there's Native American Indians with a larger nose. So there's two different kinds of influence, but it doesn't come from the it doesn't come from the Hamitic line, and it doesn't come from the Japethite line. So it comes from the mitochondrial DNA line. So that was interesting to me. If I can find out where I'm at.
In this particular carving. And I'm bringing up the carvings because we have to remember, and we have to get out of our minds, the image we have of today's Native Americans, because the physical features.
Okay, these are American Indians with large, Semitic type noses, and these people. I mean, this kind of appearance here is also represented in some of the indigenous people in South America as well.
Possess are the product of a later migration event. They're going to echo their Asian origin, and they're mixing, perhaps, with the peoples who were here first. So whatever features they have are not necessarily the features that the earliest Americans have. That's why I'm emphasizing these carvings. Who did these people come from? Could it be that the builders of these monuments came from peoples like this? Could these be how the first Americans looked? It's a very intriguing hypothesis, and we'll talk about in future episodes some genetic tools we could use to explore it. At the moment,
and I think he's going to talk next time about the European Y chromosome, which will be interesting too. So, what we got? We got Ronan Wildheart. I didn't mean to neglect y'all. Hope you're not too disinterested. Let me see. So, does everybody like the class so far? Let's see. Is there anything that anybody would like to add to that or discuss, maybe, if you're still awake? JJ watched the Ken Ham video. That was your first mistake. The Ken Ham video, I liked Ken Ham. I had breakfast with him one time. Ronan, I'm interested in sharing my perspective about the video. Okay, I disagree with that. Okay. Well, maybe I'll let you get. Let me get my here.
Hello, how you doing?
Okay, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay, I can hear you now. I can hear.
Okay, let's get into it. The last part of the video you were showing, you showed American Indians. Okay, do you understand? Okay, the point being is the fathers of those Indians migrated to North and South America 40,000 years before Columbus landed in the West Indies. Okay. Now, over time, now,
40,000 years. No, that's not what
no,
the.
no, no. Wait a
That's
minute.
not what the
Wait a minute.
genetic
Time
distance
out.
is.
Time out.
That's
You
not.
presented your representation of
That's
human migration. I'm representing
right, right.
the scientific
But there is
knowledge.
a genetic distance you have to deal with.
Excuse me.
So
Excuse me. I'm
no, go
representing
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
the genetic. I'm representing the genetic knowledge
Another
carried
perspective.
forth by science.
Another
What
perspective.
you have is something by
Another.
the Ken Ham grouping of people who believe otherwise. Now,
Another opinion. Okay.
you said you were going to hear me out, but you keep interrupting me,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah. I'll let you talk. It's okay.
I'm having fun at your expense right
It's
now
it's okay.
by,
You
by
can
doing these
go ahead.
voices, trying to be patient with you.
Go ahead and talk. Go ahead.
And
Go ahead.
40,000 years ago, the fathers of those American Indians that were displayed in the video migrated. Now the thing is,
Which
over
ones? The
that
Polynesian ones? The Polynesian ones?
oh,
The Polynesian ones that came from over here?
over 40,000 years, the people that settled in those regions of the Americas, north
These
and
guys?
south. No, oh man, I love this. North and south,
The Polynesians
they
here?
they adapted to the environment because it is hot, because it is dry, right? Because it may be hot and moist for that matter.
Over here?
The human nose adapted over time.
Okay.
Imagine Icelanders or Nordic people, they have smaller noses. There's a lot more oxygen where they were living, and it was cold. So they needed less air. So the nose over generations
That's an idea.
adapted to the environment, becoming smaller in size.
That's an idea.
And the difference in American Indian versus like the Jewish faith is adaptation over time.
But
Okay.
you don't see the influence of the Semitic nose in the American Indians?
I see some influence, but not a direct connection, because we're talking the science of environment and
Well,
adaptation to
That's why I showed you
an
the
environment.
that's why I showed you the Semitic DNA or the
Again,
mitochondrial DNA in here.
well, again, the graphics you had showed prior put Adam in in Africa, Central Africa, and the migration pattern started from there. Genetics has already proven what I'm sharing with you. Okay, they went through and actually took DNA samples of a bunch of people from all over the world and figured out the migration pattern over time of the human species.
But you
Okay.
know there's Hamitic and Semitic and Japhethites, right?
Well, okay, but that's your interpretation. I'm not saying it is wrong. I'm saying I disagree with your position based on the science that I understand and
The
accept.
same thing is here with the Africans here. The Hamitic is here, L1, 2, and
No, no,
3.
no. The Africans were first.
But then they mixed it up. If that's the case, let me just show you this. Because over here they have first the Africans, then the Semitics, and then the Japhethites. But over here in the mitochondria they have the Africans, the Japhethites, and then the Semitic women.
Okay.
Maternal line. So that doesn't even make sense. How can over here the Semitics be descended from the Africans, and then the Japhethites be descendants from the Semitics, and then over here you have the Japhethites descended from the Africans,
Well,
and then the Semitics are descended from the Japhethites. It's mixed around. It's backwards. They got it backwards.
well, no. The thing is,
I want you to address that though. I want you to explain that.
the thing is that we are direct descendants
No, no. I want you to explain the DNA. Why is the DNA switched around back? Why is it mixed up like that?
I just acknowledged that by saying that we are direct descendants.
I don't
Okay,
know. According to this,
over time, because again, the groups of people settled in different regions, they adapted
no.
to the environment
But I'm
in
not
that.
talking about that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking
I
about
am. I'm no. I'm saying
in the
that I'm supporting.
mitochondrial.
No, I'm
They have
supporting.
they have the Japhethites descended from the Africans, but in the Y chromosome, they got this Semitic people descended from Africans. So which
Again,
is it?
the
Is
thing
it
is,
the,
look, do you understand that the individual has 46 chromosomes? You do understand that, yes?
yeah?
Okay,
What's that
23
got
and
to
23 and me, the me part is the other.
What's that got to do with the
Whether you
Presbyterian
go with
Church?
mitochondrial DNA or Y DNA, it doesn't matter. Because of migration and intermarriages between groups,
Hold on a second.
right? You get a general
I was
a general pattern, right? Then you have specific patterns, haploid groups, like Icelanders, for example,
okay.
right?
This is
Been
haploid.
they've been intermingling for centuries.
See the haploid group here, mtDNA. They have the Japhethites descended from Africans here, but over here with a Y chromosome, they got the Semitic people descended from the Africans. So which is it?
Okay, again, you're talking exactly what I'm explaining to you.
Which is it?
23 and 23. You have those 2 points, right, diverging from basic humanity, right? And you got the mitochondrial DNA and the Y DNA, and they all travel all over the place and mix in and get together
But
and make more babies.
you didn't explain the mix up of the DNA
Yeah,
of the
you're trying. You
of who
see?
descended from who.
No, no, excuse me.
Let me show you another chart. Let me show you another chart
No,
here.
no,
Hold on.
excuse me. Your argument dictates that it's only based on Y DNA.
Let me show you another chart.
That's not so, because it's a combination of mitochondrial DNA and Y DNA that makes humanity up. You're trying to base it on one side of the chromosome group, right? You're just saying no, it's the male only. Females existed also, and they still do. The point being is that your argument dictates that it's only one-sided. It's not. That's the point in science. You look at all aspects of it. And
I don't think
I'm not saying you're wrong.
I don't think you're saying anything. But anyways, look here. Here they have the. Oh, this is no good. Here they have. This is the M. What's this? Y chromosomes through time.
Okay, but it starts there. Looky there in Africa.
This is
Right
right.
there, the same thing we had discussed.
But they're saying that the Semites descended from the Africans.
Descended from, right.
And
You're
then,
right.
then the Japhethites descended from the Semites.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. You're right in the Y side of things. But
well, right
there, it shows in Africa, if you follow the lines out, you get the different haploid groups, and then you get to your Moses example, should I say. But it starts right there in Africa.
So why is it mixed up with the mtDNA line? Why is it the opposite? Why is it the opposite with the mtDNA?
No, that's not. You're not looking at it for what it is. That's the point.
See, the mtDNA, this is the African L123. The Japhethite is M, and the Semitic is N. All this N.
Okay, but the L1, L2 would probably stand for lineage 1, lineage 2. It starts from Africa, not Moses.
But you're not explaining the mix-up, though. I'm trying to get you to explain why with the women, they got the women descended from Africans that are Japhethite first, And then, but then on the Y chromosome, the paternal line, they have the Semitic men descended from Africans first. So
Right.
why did they mix that up?
No, it starts from mitochondrial. It starts from the egg, not the chicken. Okay. Well, that was funny. My apologies. No, I didn't mean to be funny. But technically, what came first, the chicken or the egg? The egg came first, if you understand simple cell division. Okay, and it builds on that. So
No,
it's a mitochondrial
but you have
DNA.
to have a father and a mother. You
Look,
have to have Semitic fathers and Semitic mothers.
Look, you just try to ignore previous science history and assume the Moses model. Okay, I don't disagree
No,
with.
I'm just looking at the DNA evidence. I'm not looking at anything else. I'm looking at what the
Okay,
DNA evidence is.
it says right there in the lower left-hand corner, Y DNA atom, the
Right,
star. You see the pretty little star there in
right,
gray? That's where it starts.
right.
Okay,
It says right here,
you're showing me exactly what you showed me
right here,
before.
Adam, right? This is
Right,
Adam. So
A,
we got A,
A,
B, C, D,
A starts in Africa.
and then you have the Semitic people right here, right?
Right, that's after the fact. Right,
This
you're
is
right. I'm
Semitic.
not disagreeing with you
So how can you have Semitics descended from African
because it started with
and
A.
not the what about the Semitic women? Where's the Semitic women?
It's part of the haploid group that developed in the region.
The Semitic women, according to this one, came after the Japhethite women,
But,
which is
but
contradictory.
okay, is that based on mitochondrial DNA or Y DNA?
This is mitochondrial, but it's contradictory.
No, you like I said, L1, if you look where L1 is and L2, they're both in Africa. So after that, descendants came Moses. But you're trying to say no because the Bible says the earth is 6,000 years old. Fine. That's what you want to believe. It's your right. But the science disagrees.
Here, what's this? Let me look for the. Let me show you the mtDNA. mtDNA. They have. This is the one I want to show. This gives the order. This one here. So this one here. So you have the L. This is the L. L1. Then this is mixed up too because look at this. Where's the 2? 2 is right here. L2 is right here. L3. Okay. L1, 2, and 3.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Then you have M and all these M's. These are all M. All this here is the Japhethite women mitochondria, maternal line. So you got that right. According to this lineage, see this lineage they got here?
Uh huh.
They got this M descending from this.
Okay. If you look at the a horizontal line there, it starts with red, and I think it says one.
But this doesn't show it.
Man one. It started in Africa.
And then it said,
You notice the red matches up with Africa. That's where man started. Your narrative starts after that.
mtDNA, but then they have the M first, and then the N. The N. This is the Semitic maternal DNA line. Now, let me see if I can find another one because this is confusing things here.
All you're finding is anything that supports my position. That's why you keep jumping around, and you'll keep jumping around because the information you're sharing with me supports my position. If you understand what you're looking at, and you don't want to, I believe you do know.
This is why.
I believe you do know. I do sincerely believe that you know, but for the sake of believing in your God, you'll deny it, and that's fair enough. That's what you want to believe. That's what you want to believe. But the science that you're showing me disagrees with you and supports my position. you're not reading these. You're looking for
Yeah,
some,
you can believe what you want to believe.
or you're cherry picking. I think that's the
You
term.
can believe what you want to believe.
No,
But
no,
see,
I can prove what I'm saying with your own charts.
okay, so tell me this. Why are there no C's and D's in Africa?
Because they happened after that. Because if you start with the first letter, then it's the second letter, then
No,
it's the third letter.
no, these are Egyptian.
A
See,
hierarchy. What do you want to call it?
see this
It,
Egyptian
it,
here?
it,
That's
it, it starts with one, goes to two,
you're
goes
gonna
to
have
three.
to listen. You're gonna have to listen. See the Egyptian?
What
That's
about them?
that's
They came after YDNA.
you're gonna have to listen. You're gonna have to listen.
Oh,
The
okay, fine.
Egyptian is Mitzrayim. They're E. They have an E Y chromosome. So
Okay,
all the descendants of Mitzrayim are E
okay,
because they went in Africa. He settled Egypt with his mother, whose name is Egyptus.
okay.
Okay, so they're here, but
Right.
Nimrod is over here.
Okay.
Nimrod never went to Africa. Nimrod went this way. C.
He went east.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's nowhere to be found anywhere around here. He's nowhere to be found anywhere around here, and nowhere anywhere to be found here.
Right, right. So he was a progenitor of
Neither is
of another haplogroup. Got it.
neither is the D. The D is found on this island, Andamanese, right here, and they're dark-skinned people. They look African, the same as the Aborigines look African that are C. Aborigines have C, which is the same thing as the people, the Mongolians that went this way that never went to Africa. And then the D's from here they went up to Tibet, Burma.
Wait a minute. But that says D1.
Yeah, it's a D.
Yeah, but that's D1 would be the
It
first.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's D.
Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, got it. Go
It's
ahead.
the D. It's the D family tree. So then from here they went to Tibet and Burma. They're found here. They went up here to Paleo-Siberian. They're found here. They're found over here in Joman, over here, and they're found 2/3 of the Japanese population are of the same Y chromosome family as these black people down here.
Okay, makes sense. Go ahead. I'm reading the chart, man. I'm learning it, should I say.
Okay, so why is there no C's in the Middle East? Nowhere in the Middle East here. There's no C's, and there's no D's here, or in East Africa. There's no D's.
Well, that was a different haploid group that developed. You said, I forget
It's the same.
I forget his name, but you said he went
Yeah.
east.
It's the
So,
Nimrod. Yeah. But it's the same family. It's the same Hamite family.
Right. They just developed
Because-
a different haploid group.
Because Ham had different sons. He had one son, Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim's right here. He has the E. He's the Egyptian. Mitzrayim. He had another son. Ham had another son named Nimrod, who went the other way. Went this way. So why is the D not represented here and the C not represented here when it supposedly came from Africa?
Because they migrated through there, went further east, and established their own haploid group. Migration is not specific.
But they are the same family.
Right.
They belong to the same family as these people over here.
Right.
The A, B's, and the E's.
Right.
But-
Again, that's a different haploid group.
But they never went to Africa. They never went to Africa.
Of course not, because their group or was representatives migrated through there over time.
No, if they migrated through, they would have.
They would have.
They would have some representatives over here.
No, they would have had the haploid group develop after that.
See how
It's called evolution.
See how a lot of people are represented right here where the ark landed?
Well, yes. There was probably good land there for growing crops, and a lot of people from
And,
different haploid groups migrated there,
and
intermixed.
some
Like the
people went
pie
this
chart
way.
shows, like your pie chart is showing
See,
multiple colors there.
some, yeah, right. Some
So
colors that went this way. You can
well,
see
yeah, but
how this light blue color went this way. That's H. That's my maternal line right here.
okay, there you go. There you go.
They went this way.
You found yourself. Great.
Okay, but they didn't go this way, right?
No, because that's what
They
those
went this way.
people. That's what
But
those
they
people wanted to do and
but
establish.
they originated here. Same thing with these other colors. Same things with these other colors.
Yeah,
They
yes,
went here.
no, it didn't go. No.
The green here, the light green. Went this way.
Again, migration is not in a specific direction. Okay, if you notice the haploid group that you identify with,
It
up
is a
there at the
direction.
upper, yeah, you notice that there are other colors there, right?
Yeah,
Those other colors,
but they're different colors than these colors over here. They went this way, and these colors went this way.
wait a minute, I see a pink over in the United States, and I see pink over in your haploid group on
No, it's a different color.
the far.
This color here, this
far
color
left.
here,
It's
this-
pink.
that's not the same color as this color. This is
Well, that's what you look. That's what
this is
But that's what the legend
this is
says
you.
right there.
No, this is you. This is you, and this is R. This is
Okay. So it's
this is A. This is A, and this is you. This is you, and this is A. They're different
okay.
different shades. And of course, the reds went this way. See the reds? The reds went this way.
Uh huh.
These light greens went this way. And the L1, 2, and 3, they went to Africa and they stay there. But when you go to the mitochondrial,
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. I'm with you now.
well, when you go to the mitochondria, when you go to the Y chromosome, there's no representative of C or D anywhere in this area.
Well, but the Jews follow their lineage through mitochondrial DNA, not Y DNA.
Come on. Abraham.
Yes, there was a claim.
Abraham is J. J and I is the family of Abraham.
No, but again, the Jews follow their bloodline through the mother.
This is also, it doesn't matter. This is the Y chromosome. This is the Jewish Semitic Y chromosome is J.
Okay.
Jews are J, Israel is I, and Egypt is E. No, I'm just kidding. No, the I and the J is one family. You can't see it here on this chart, but it's the I and the J is one family. This is Semite. The G and the H are Semitic, but they're not the same family as Abraham. This is the Abrahamic family, but this is also the Arabic people too, because Abraham is the father of the Jews and the Arabs.
Right. Islam and yeah.
The Arabic peoples have they're descended from Abraham because Abraham is the paternal line. So they're J's too. And
Okay. Well, then what comes after that?
what comes after that? Well, it just goes on down the line. HIJK.
Yeah, no, you've established the foundation. Now, what is your framing here? What are you framing? What are you trying to establish? Because all of this is just background to develop a foundation, and I want to know what the framing is.
No, you said that Jews don't have a Y chromosome.
I didn't say that. I said the Jews claimed their lineage through the mother. Not
But the Jews have a paternal line and a maternal line. They're no different than anybody else.
They follow the maternal line because I had to look it up. Someone made a claim. I went.
Well, that's something else.
I went and did some research.
That has nothing to do with DNA. That has nothing to do with DNA. We're talking about DNA.
What mitochondrial DNA.
we're talking about the
Wait a minute.
the paternal line and the
Listen to
maternal
the
line.
second. Listen to the second word of both phrases I'm going to say right now. Y-DNA, mitochondrial DNA. We're talking about DNA. Okay.
Yeah, the Y is the paternal line.
Yes.
Yeah, and the mtDNA is the maternal line.
mtDNA. Yes. Yes. But see, the thing is, it's again, like I said before, it's a combination of both, and migration patterns show where haploid groups developed, where they began, but it's over time that it happens.
Yeah, the Ashkenazi Jewish line has a percentage here, group H,
But
25%.
see, it doesn't say why. It says MT.
This is the maternal line. This is the maternal line.
Maternal. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, they have a maternal line. They have a paternal line. They have
The Jews,
both.
again, I said the Jews follow the mtDNA.
They have both
parental
lines.
bloodline.
They have a paternal line too.
Yes, I agree. However, the Jewish culture bases it on the mother. The Christian culture bases it on the father.
But
I'm
we're
just
not
using that- I'm
talking.
just
We're
using
not
those
talking
quick
about religion. We're talking about DNA.
But you go to Moses, which is part of religion.
No, it's not about religion. It's about
You
DNA.
keep mentioning Shem and Ham. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about its history. You have to study history. If you want to be a scientist, you have to know history.
No, you have to know a lot more things than just history to be a scientist.
See, these are mostly Semitic. The only maternal line here that's not Semitic of the Jewish people would be this M and the L. I think the
Wait a
L.
minute. It did
the M.
post a percentage. Yes, I grant you. It's
But
less. I grant you it's less than 1%.
That's a
I
small
grant you that.
percent.
But
L-
it is in there.
L is 2%. This is
Wait a minute. The M group.
this. You know what? L. Tell me. Let me see if you're paying attention, Ronan. Tell me what the L mtDNA is. Tell me what it is.
I don't know. I'd have to go back to the chart.
You're not paying attention.
I said I don't know. I don't remember.
You're not paying attention. What's L1, 2, and 3?
Oh, that's in Africa. So it'd be.
So what's this? What's this here?
It's got 2.26.
Yeah, what is that?
After the fact.
What is this?
Look, that's after the fact. After they've migrated.
I'm just asking you what it is.
Well, the black has 2.26%. That's in modern times.
This is a maternal.
That's in modern times.
Yeah, the maternal percentage here of the L is 2.26%.
Right.
And what is it again?
Black.
That's black, African, right?
African.
Yeah. What's this one here?
2.26%. And
what's this one here? What's this one here?
We'd have to look it up again. I don't know. But it's got 0.8%. Look, it still has a percentage.
Let me say what the letters are. The letters in the mitochondrial are L, M, and N. Okay. What's the M?
I don't remember.
M is Japhethite. What's the N?
Okay, the Jacobite. I don't know.
Japhethite. What's the N? The N is the Semitic maternal line.
Okay, 6.9.
And all these other ones are maternal are Semitic. The only ones that are not Semitic would be this one here, the African, and this Japhethite.
But it says there's a number there.
What?
There are numbers there. That means we're all interrelated. That's all that means. If the Jews have more percentage of something in a haploid group, okay.
No, this particular Jewish population, this particular Jewish population has this percentage of maternal
it
Africans.
still proves that we are all one species.
Has this percentage of maternal
To a
Africans?
degree, we share percentages in DNA combinations.
Has this percentage of Japhethites?
Yes, but they still have 0.89%, so we're
And
related.
and all the rest is Semitic. So only 2.25% is African DNA on the maternal line. Less than 1% is from Japheth, and all the rest is Semitic.
Okay. But it's still connected.
Except for the K. Is it K?
It-
Oh no, the K is the K is Semitic, I think. I mean, the K is what do you call it? Wait, let me see.
You're not listening. You're not listening.
Yeah, the K is Semitic. Yeah, there's because it's maternal. I'm thinking you get it mixed up with a Y chromosome all the time. Yeah, the K is Semitic. If it was a Y chromosome, it would be Japhethite. But it's a maternal.
But that's in Africa too.
No, this K is Semitic. No, the only ones in African are the L, 1, 2, and 3s. See these colors?
What's that orangey thing? The Q?
This orangey thing here, this yellow thing here.
No, that's not
orange. This purple thing in.
Okay, got it. I got
those are the mtDNA African maternal line.
The original.
Yeah, the original. Yeah. But then of that, obviously, 2% became part of an Ashkenazi line.
Right. They're all interconnected.
Well, that's because they married into Israel.
No, Israel is not the starting point.
No, they married into Israel. They became part of Israel.
It's part of history.
Yeah, they became part of Israel. They married into Israel.
Okay.
Okay, but the C and the D never went to Africa. They went the other way, and they went as far as they went all the way to the Americas. The C did, and the D went all the way as far as Japan. And it's the same family as A, B, and E. Same family tree on the paternal line.
Okay.
But this is another family tree.
Okay.
This is one family tree. This is another family tree, and this is the third son of Noah. And there's separate trees too, by the way. If I see, I'm here, right? If I wanted to connect to this family tree, I have to go all the way back to Noah to connect to this family tree here. And if these people here wanted to connect to this family tree, they got to go all the way back to Noah to connect to this family tree and to connect to this family tree.
So you're remotely related to A, B, C, D, and E.
In the paternal line.
Well, yeah, because you said it came from Moses. So agreeing with you,
it's only
you are like half brother to the other haploid groups.
But it's only in the paternal line that you have to go all the way back to Noah to connect to this family tree here.
It takes two to tango and make a baby. So
and the same thing with these here. They got to go all the way back to Noah.
Find your quarter brother.
Now, if in the mtDNA line, say I'm H here, right? This is my maternal DNA. I would have to go all the way back to
Moses.
I'd have to go to mitochondrial Eve, basically.
Okay, so you're still related. Quarter quarter sawn oak. Let's call it quarter sawn oak.
or wherever,
You're
whichever came first. I'd have to go to.
related to the haploid group that originated in Africa. Got it.
So
Got
in order to connect to this family tree right here, I would have to go back before the flood to connect to this family tree here.
Again, but you're alive, so because of reproduction,
And the same thing
you
with these
are
here.
related to everyone in the world, to a smaller percentage and a greater percentage to your own haploid group, but you're still related.
No, but this is only the mtDNA and only the Y chromosome.
But
It's only the paternal line and the maternal line. Those are only two family straight lines.
right, but you're still quarter sawn oak.
But you have thousands and thousands of lines.
I
Right?
agree with you. You're absolutely right. However,
Yeah, this is only two lines: the paternal line and the maternal line.
well, there is no other line there. In reality, there's no other line. So you are related to everyone, including me.
Did you ever find out what you are? You know what your
I told you. I'm Italian descent.
No, the mtDNA or the Y chromosome?
No, I don't. No, I didn't look it up.
Okay. Well, Italian, you might be a J.
Okay.
Either are you light skin or darker skin? Are you olive skin?
No, I'm kind of light skinned.
Well, then you might be an R1B.
I trace my lineage to northern Italy.
Northern Italy, you're probably R1B.
Okay, R1B then.
But you have to do a test to make sure.
Yeah. Well, again, because my mother, I traced her lineage to Spain.
Yeah, that's R1B too. Well, this is a larger population. It's not the entire population because Spain has probably everybody in there.
Well, not based on this map at that time. So I'm not arguing one way or the other. I'm a human being just like you are. So, fine. I can find point of origin, but that doesn't mean outcome.
Anyway, let me see what we got here. Does Wild Heart give up? I guess he's not. Yeah, give it. All right. So did you like the presentation of the this one here?
No, I'll put it this way: it was a good presentation, but I disagree with the statements, facts, and claims because it just doesn't make sense scientifically.
Okay, let me just find this one lineage if I can find it again.
Yeah, but it's
this one right here. Okay, see this shows the genetic distance. This one here shows genetic distance. This is what might be confusing you, right?
No, again, you're just pointing out something that supports my statement that we're all interconnected, and you can see it right there.
But you have to listen.
We're all interconnected. We're just spread out, and that's all the man is doing.
But you have to listen to what I'm saying first. See this here line? This is sub-Saharan African. See how long that's genetic distance. That means they reproduced at a faster rate than all of these people here.
Okay, so
that's why the genetic distance is a lot longer, or maybe they had more mutations for some reason. But that's genetic distance. Genetic distance is the number of mutations.
Each generation is born with, I think it's 104.
But it's not the number of years. It's not the number of years.
Well,
in other words, it starts from here. It starts from Noah, right?
Right.
And goes this way. This is today. This is someone living today.
No, it says right there, AD 1990.
No, right here.
Arrow at the bottom. The arrow at the bottom. The arrow at the bottom says flood 2500 BC to AD 1990.
When's 1990?
Where that vertical line, that's where it ends.
When's 1990?
That's what it says right there, AD 1990.
That's the present day.
Okay, that's where they went to.
So they took somebody's DNA test who's living at this point here. And the same thing here. They took this African's DNA because he was living in 1990.
That represents that African lineage. That's where it started.
No, this is today.
Right.
No, this is where it ends. It starts.
So if you go backwards on that.
No, it starts with Noah.
No. If you go backwards on that line, that means it started.
No, this is all
present.
And then all
going back to the flood is where it's trying to explain different haploid groups.
This is all sub-Saharan African family tree, Y chromosome.
It started from there.
In order to connect to it, you have to go all the way back here to Noah.
Right. That's what it's representing.
But they got this mixed up too, somehow.
Again, everything you're showing me supports my position.
But this is the African family tree right here.
No, it's that one line above it, 2 lines above it, I believe, that you pointed out.
Right here? No, this is sub-Saharan Africa.
No, again, but see the Noah where that circle is, that's representing Noah, I believe. Because you see the bracket.
Yeah, Noah's here, yeah.
Yeah, you see the bracket, and then that circle right there, that's Noah.
No, this circle is.
But see, that's where the claim that it branched out.
It's talking about East Asia. People in East Asia that are.
Why would that be circled? Why would that be circled if it says Noah?
The blue is East Asia. There's people in East Asia that are of the same family tree as the Africans.
Okay, makes sense.
But notice that
the same family tree diverges up.
Same family tree. This is people that were tested today.
It goes down. You're right. But it also goes up.
No, this would be other people. This is Central Asia, South Asia, Europe.
Yes.
Americas, Siberia, Oceania.
Yeah, and you're included.
Europe.
Oh, we are all
included up here.
We're all connected to Africa.
No, Africa is here. This family tree. Africa is this family tree right here.
The brackets connect. The lines. The brackets connect.
Yeah, we connect here. This is where we connect.
Peoples.
This is where we connect right here. Noah.
Okay, so we're still all connected. Whether you started from Noah or you started from the Africans, we're still connected, regardless of what you present.
That's because
whether you claim it's Noah, fine, we can trace it back to Africans. If I claim it's Africans, we can trace it up to Noah.
That's because these are 3 sons of Noah. They're brothers. This is a brother. This is one brother, another brother, and this is the third brother.
Okay.
They're 3 sons of Noah. This is Ham, Shem, and Japheth. mtDNA. Y haplogroup. Y chromosome. J1, J2, G. J, element of PQRS. They got the S here too.
Okay. What's next?
Let me see here. What else we got here? That's the C. C is the African family tree. D is the African family tree. There it is right there. But you watched the whole thing. Did you watch the whole thing?
Well, yeah, but the thing is, again, it is a man is presenting it in such a way that is biased towards biblical doctrine.
Well, known human history. It's according to known human history
No, no, no.
and historical records and calendars and genealogies.
Again, the man is cherry picking to define something that cannot be proven real.
No, well, it's
If,
you
if,
can't argue with the DNA.
right, but the science disagrees with you, and I've been pointing out where that presentation is skewed. Right, it's bias. It has a bias towards biblical doctrine. It's their right, but they cannot present papers or evidence. Put it this way, that gentleman or Mr. Ham or anyone that believes would be holding Nobel Prizes right now.
Oh, they might get one. They might get a prize. Maybe not a Nobel Prize. You get a prize because he's the one. He's the only one doing the work right now.
Well,
Study.
the Nobel Prize comes with $1 million, and the point being is Mr. Ham.
Oh, you need $1 million?
It's 1 million.
Why do you have to have $1 million? Why can't you just do the work and be the one to get the credit for it?
Because it's an award. It's a reward, should I say. The award is a Nobel Prize, and Mr. Ham or this, I forget this gentleman's name, if they could present,
Nathaniel. His name's Nathaniel. Nathaniel Jensen,
yeah,
doctor.
well, if he could present that evidence, right, he would be holding it.
He just did. He just did present it. And it's the same thing that it shows here on this map when he was presented.
Yes, but again, my reading of the map is better than how you understand how that map is working. And it's the same thing for that PhD. He cannot provide any convincing evidence that would garner him a Nobel Prize.
It's called DNA.
Put it this way, you just have to have the statement and evidence and the test available, presented to science. If you can convince them and they have a consensus, that person will get a Nobel Prize and $1 million. All we're doing here is trying to debate the details. But again, what you're presenting to me sides with my position. You're trying to do like Mr. Ham and that PhD and say it's all based on biblical reference, and that's not true in science. You have a social position platform, right, where science has a method to basically test any observation, and that's where the differences lie. The mind, your faith, and reality, science.
Okay, Y chromosome. Yeah. Why they got it? This is just A. Okay. See this here? This is A. This is only A. Anyways, whatever.
Yeah, but see, if you see the header, it says cultural evolution, not biological evolution.
No, but it's a Y chromosome. Y chromosome as a window onto cultural evolution.
cultural, how culture works.
Y chromosome doesn't lie.
Let's say,
This is DNA results right here.
right, in cultures.
No, this is DNA results. It's direct results. Okay, what's
But
this?
again, you have to you really have to consider the full statement, right? When you look at that, because if you just go with one aspect of it, you are missing the overall presentation. That's what I was saying, because you have to consider the full title of the article, and you're cherry picking. That's where
Yeah.
again, the information you're sharing with me supports my side of this discussion.
You think so?
No, because I just you can't. You're the one presenting these things. I read the title in its
Oh, there it is.
entirety, and you're wanting to cherry pick. Okay, and that's the whole thing. That's all of it right there. That's what makes you rage quit. That what makes you change the topic. That what makes you say no, but I'm over here in this group. Because if you read any of this and really consider everything it says, you're probably be forced to change your mind.
See, this is the mistake they're making right here. They're thinking this K element OPQR, this group here with this color here, K element OPQR, S, there's S too.
But they're not using the same representation for each alpha character.
They're
Okay.
having
This is another paper.
actually
You-
it's about the same thing really. Except they're trying to say
About the same thing is not the same thing.
no, but they're trying to say well actually it doesn't
No, they're not
connect
trying.
to here.
They're making a presentation.
But
Okay.
anyways, here's the African. This is the African tree. A, B, C, D, and E. Right.
Okay. Now, if you go over to the left side of the page, it says Y. Y. Do you see the Y? Now, if you follow it up,
You don't have to
follow
yell.
the line up that is perpendicular to the arrow, it goes back to A and B, or A. Yeah, A
But
and
here's
B
A, B, C, D.
is connected. Where Y goes down, turns right, and hits the other bracket, which is also connected, and so on and so forth.
Well, they're making assumptions here. They're making an
No, it's
assumption that
not
this
an
is
assumption.
the oldest line, and this is the later line, and this is later. When in fact these are three different brothers. This K element OP, this FGHI J, and this A B C D E are three different brothers from the same father, Noah. And it's you can see how they're separate family trees. Every one is a separate family tree. See, this is completely separate from this, completely separate from this. And in Europe, this is probably you, an R, if you're an R. Okay. Anyway, that's about it. But they'll figure it out. It'll iron itself out eventually anyway. Prove it one way or another. And I'm not worried about it because I know what the historical records are. Okay, what's this? Continental ancestry, very widely among individuals. Okay, well, see what they say here. They got the, oh, come on. See, they got the A over here. It was over here. Can't make up their mind, I guess. F, G, H, I, J, K. K, L, M, N, F. Okay. So they got the A, B, C. They don't have, they're making up stories. They don't have anybody over here. Oh, good. Okay, I guess that's about it. Anyway, it was pretty interesting.
Here, I'm going to begin with the upper one. And you might recall from previous episodes that we've been assigning letters and names and such, which seem somewhat arbitrary to these various groups, but they're
Okay. There's the C. There's C.
date changes some. The point is it happens after the dates we saw in this other branching. It seems to be a second diversification event, which may have some echo in what Ken referred to in the Australian Aboriginal legends. There were people here before. And in the study, the only echo
and the D.
Japan. I think it's about a third of Japan. And when I had this study in hand, I thought, oh, this just must be an ancient Japanese lineage. It's a very strong echo. And in the study, the only echo in Japan. I think it's about a third of Japan. And when I had this study in hand, I thought, oh, this just must be an ancient Japanese lineage. Well, lo and behold, if you look more broadly in the globe, and especially at some of these neglected minority groups, there is a group of people in the Andaman Islands. You've probably never heard of these before. As you studied South Asian history, they belong, I think, to India. The great Andamanese peoples do not look like Indians, like South Asians. They look like Africans. They're very dark-skinned, dark-haired, curly-haired. They look like African peoples, and they show up, so they're nearly extinct. The males that we've been able to sample show up in group D. They share a common ancestor with the Japanese people, and they share a common ancestor around the same time that we saw this migration event in group C. So what in the world is going on here? Let's add this to the map. I'm going to color them purple because they have this obvious physical resemblance to peoples right here. So you have, in ancient times, something that's probably never been documented in history, but from genetics, we have an event for some dispersal of peoples, not the Babel dispersal. This is after that. This is at least 1,000 years after that. You do have peoples that are part of groups C and D, and you have a much better sampling of Africa. So groups C and D show up there. Sub-Saharan Africa shows up there, and only there. And from my perspective, if you look at the distribution of sub-Saharan Africans in these lineages, I still have the zoomed out scenario, but I'm doing this because I want you to see that C and D are almost swallowed up in sub-Saharan Africa. You could make the case that they look like they're African descendants. Again, the original Papua New Guineans show up.
Of course, they're African descendants. I mean, not African descendants, but Hamite descendants.
Write him a letter. Tell him he's wrong.
They're Hamite descendants, which is the same family tree as the African descendants.
S, K, and M up here. So I would argue that genetically there's definitely evidence for an initial, very early settling of Papua New Guinean Australian Aborigines. But could there be a second settling? Again, we've looked at, in Group C, a distribution. It seems to be in 800 AD, C and D. There's something that happens where people spread out all across South, East, North Asia, as well into the Pacific. So what's going on? Is this an Indonesian group that spreads out? Could this be dark-skinned peoples, African peoples? Well, if they did that, that would bring them to the shores of the Americas. The earliest peoples are the Olmecs that we find archaeological evidence for, not necessarily a household name, but their carvings are something our viewers might be familiar with. How intriguing that the physical features on these carvings,
but they could have
the
still
nose, the eyes, the lips, seem to find an echo this way, and then went this way. And we know there's a lot of
they could
migration
have crossed
happening.
over
Let's
this
stop
way,
these
though.
dark-skinned
I think they
peoples
crossed over this way.
continuing their migrations in the eastward direction. Well, if they
But
did
it
that,
doesn't
that would
matter.
bring them to the shores of
Doesn't
the
matter
Americas.
how they did it.
The earliest peoples are the Olmecs that we find archaeological evidence for, not necessarily a household name, but their carvings are something our viewers might be familiar with.
That would be Pacific Islander, which is C anyways. The only thing is the C, let me see what compare to C here. This is C2M38, C2A, Maori, and this is C3, yeah, see, they didn't come this way. This is C2 here, because the C3 came from over here. See, this is C3 up here. So they came that way.
Right.
All the way down to here. This far.
40,000 years before Columbus discovered America.
No, it was after the global flood. 5,000 years ago. Less than 5,000 years ago.
That many haploid groups happened within 5,000 years. That's what you're saying.
We have the genealogies.
Yes.
Going back 5,000 years. We can have the calendars going back 5,000 years. The Mayan calendar. We got the Mayan calendar 5,000 years. We got the Hindu calendar 5,000 years. We got the Chinese calendar 5,000 years.
Look, this is science, okay? Man, when he became a species about 180,000 years ago, was just as smart or capable of learning, but smarter over time.
Where'd they all go?
Because of learning. Overall, man learned things about the same age in their evolution. So
but there's no history.
That's where you have the Mayans making pyramids and Egypt.
There's no history before the Mayans. There's no history before the Sumerians, Mayans, and the Hindus. There's no history before that.
There's no history before the Bible. You just pointed it out.
But the Bible.
You said so.
But the Bible
said so.
The history in the Bible is older than 5,000 years. It goes back over 6,000 years. See, that's the problem that you're having.
But the Hindu religion existed before Christianity.
No. 5,000 years.
Okay,
Mayan calendar, 5,000 years.
again, that's according to your source.
Egyptian history started with Mitzrayim. Abraham was a Sumerian. Mitzrayim was Noah's grandson. We have all the history. We know what the history is.
No,
Japhethites went north. That's all this N and Q and R.
no, there's other histories out there.
And O is Japhethites. Japheth went north.
The Chinese have ancient writings. The Hindu have ancient writings.
But it's a known history.
It's their own history, right?
It's a known history. The Hindu calendar goes back 5,000 years.
Again, every society has its intelligence and
Biblical history goes back 6,000 years. Now, why do they have a calendar that only goes back 5,000 years here, and a calendar that only goes back
calendar
5,000 years here?
Calendar is not a bloodline.
No, it's a historical record. It's an absolute historical record. The calendar.
It's not a calendar.
The calendar is keeping time.
Right.
And they're only 5,000 years though.
No, but what does bloodline only expresses? Evolution of genetic origins, haploid group through the phenotypes.
Right, but you have you have biased evolutionists that want to skew the data in their favor, and they try to say that it's millions of years.
No, you're skewing the data in your favor, and it's not working with me.
You didn't hear,
and I'm not a scientist.
But you didn't hear the debate tonight between Standing for Truth and Wayne Maynard or Downard or what is his name?
RJ or RJ. Yes,
James.
And
oh, you saw that.
Yes, and Standing for Truth had nothing, man.
No, Downard was getting all irritated and everything because he didn't have nothing to say.
Yeah, I can understand someone becoming impatient with a person who does not know what they're talking about.
Because he didn't have anything to say, though. He didn't say anything.
And will not acknowledge a bias, like you're not acknowledging a bias.
He didn't know what to say. He didn't know what to say.
It's hard. It's really hard to talk to a person who will not be open to considering different perspectives.
Because we're presenting the data, and he didn't like what the data was showing.
But the data that SFT presented was called out, refuted, proven wrong.
Where was James's or what's his name, JRRJ, whatever? Where's his data? Downards. Where's Downards?
He was using science.
Where was his data? He didn't present any data.
It was based on consensus.
What was his data? What was his information? What was his evidence?
That's right. You weren't listening to the chat.
What was? No, I'm asking you.
You're refusing to step outside of your box.
I'm asking you if you say he had presented evidence, what was that evidence?
We can view the tape if you want. You have it. I mean, you can do that and run whatever you want and just hear the man out.
I don't want to listen to it again. It's because he didn't have any evidence. He didn't.
No, SFT didn't have a valid argument. And you know what? You would want to listen to it again if you knew the argument was valid. That's why you don't want to listen to it again, because you'd have to face reality.
He didn't have an argument. He didn't present an argument.
That's why you don't want to watch it, because you know.
He did not have anything to say. That's why he got all irritated and everything, because he didn't have any evidence.
Again, it does challenge a person's patience.
All he has is the bias of his peer review. Worthless peer review.
What SFT is saying is not peer reviewed. What Maynard was saying was
he was presenting papers. Maynard didn't have any
That's why you don't want to
papers.
watch the video again, because you know
Downloaded.
SFT had no valid argument. That's
He
why you
didn't.
don't want to watch it. It's
He didn't have any. He didn't.
obvious. Come on.
What? Okay. What did he present? What did Downer present?
Again, if you knew the SFT had a valid argument, you'd be running that clip right now, and you're not. And I know you're not, because
Oh, you want to listen to it again?
no, you want
Okay.
to.
Okay. Then don't be saying that.
Okay,
that
I
I gotta
want to listen to it again. Yeah, I want to listen to it again and get to the juicy parts where you think SFT made a point, and then we'll hear the rest of it.
Well, I don't even think there was anything here. Where is this thing here? Where is this? Where is this?
Oh, you didn't hit the like button
And
in your history? Yeah, it'd be in your history.
what are we looking at?
Your watch history.
I got
There
here. It
you
is.
go,
This is.
right there.
I don't want to watch this again.
Bump it forward. Bump it forward, man. Get forward.
I'm assuming that Standing is going to make his arguments about creative heterozygosity and all of the various claims about
Notice-
endogenous retroviruses.
Notice his initial statement was so short. He didn't even say anything. He didn't even have anything to say.
You didn't
Heard a lot
listen
of that
to,
before. I'm actually not
What?
no, you're not wanting to hear the man out. You skip ahead where SFT.
here to go over the whole structure of human evolutionary.
Yeah, he didn't say hardly anything at all.
No, you're just not wanting to listen because you know SFT does not have a valid argument.
No, okay. Let's listen to what they have.
It should be obvious to anybody that what we should expect to find is evidence for one female ancestor of all people on the planet,
See
as
that?
well as evidence for one male ancestor of all people on the planet. Well, genetic data confirms these expectations. He did talk about the Australopithecines very briefly there. Well, they share most of their features with living apes today. They were only around 3 or 4 feet tall. Yes, they did have some uniqueness in their morphology, but this means the best conclusion regarding Lucy and the Australopithecines is that these apes were really nothing more than just an extinct ape genus. That's really only the only thing I heard about the evolution side. But evolutionists will argue against Adam and Eve by pointing.
He didn't even want to discuss the Y chromosome evidence or the mtDNA evidence. He didn't even want to discuss it. The James Downer.
To current human genetic diversity. There are too many DNA differences to explain from just 2 people over 6,000 years. This would be true only if mutations were the source for all variety. Time is not required for the diversity today because diversity can be designed and built into Adam and Eve. RJ here is faced with a serious challenge tonight. This challenge involves pedigree-based human mitochondrial DNA mutation rate studies. The reason for this is because pedigree-based studies in the empirical method rejects deep time evolution and universal common ancestry. Evolutionists look to time dependency to explain away the
Well, I'm not going to listen to the whole thing. But see, he presented a bunch of evidence, and he didn't even want to talk about the evidence that Standing for Truth is.
You don't want to listen to the response.
What were him getting mad?
Like I said, you don't want to hear it because you know SFT did not have a valid, cogent argument.
Yeah, he didn't.
You'd have been bragging it. You'd have been repeating it. You'd have been constantly repeating it.
Yeah, he didn't have any argument with
nothing. That's it.
See, just fall on a Y chromosome, not what they ate. He wanted to talk about potatoes and corn and wheat and the animals. He didn't even want to talk about the Y chromosome.
He doesn't have to. He's using examples that match up with genetics.
He wanted to talk about everything except the Y chromosome DNA and the mtDNA. He wanted to talk about potatoes and corn and sheep and goats and everything. It's got nothing to do with a discussion.
Again, he was using analogies, direct comparison, science, and all SFP was doing is making claims. That's it.
Mitochondrial DNA.
Well, he was presenting evidence. He was presenting evidence.
You fact check Jensen.
RJ, that's why I
Fact check Jensen. He's the one presenting the evidence, the DNA evidence.
had about 10 to 15 papers.
No,
here.
you have repeated the claims he makes. That's not quite the same as.
It's DNA evidence.
Did you hear him? Did you hear?
Anyways, I still want to get back
real
to
quick,
Did you hear RJ?
DNA evidence.
I wanna answer
You
no, I wanna
just
finish your
repeated the
question about
claim.
the current human
That's what RJ
population,
just said.
because
You
if you
just
start from
repeated the claims.
I would have thought the most prudent thing would be everyone would take all the samples that they had, and that way there would be an actually global distribution
okay.
of this, but that's not what we find.
Okay, see, the thing is,
He's talking
Dr.
about
Jensen, as I said, he
potatoes
just
and
discussed the Native American
corn
migration
and animals.
route
He is
through
your oracle
Antarctica.
here.
No, I'm saying that he has confirmed predictions based on the Y chromosome, which you're ignoring.
So you
We'll look at the
insist.
details there.
See,
Now,
he's
wait.
ignoring the
when
Y
You
chromosome.
think.
Okay, so if we have 7 species of horses, let's say Noah hypothetically brought 2.
He wasn't talking
what
about
exactly
horses,
were the
sheep,
2?
and
I would say
goats,
God
and
obviously would have said-
potatoes, and corn.
Okay, so why? I mean, like I said, I call them variation-inducing genetic elements based on their function.
But are they viruses?
Well, I mean, we know that viruses, for the most part, within us are beneficial. We have more viruses than we do.
Yeah, you want to talk
Establishing that
about
we need to worry about a lot of
coronaviruses and stuff.
as organ donors and others, because there are retroviruses in there that, when transplanted into mice, can take on their old viral.
John, you've asked multiple creationists, and that's why I was excited to have this debate. You asked Adam and Eve, were they created with ERBs, ALUs, and these?
Yeah, and they were, because they got function. And he couldn't prove that retroviruses take on function, because there is no evidence of retrovirus taking on function. He
Okay.
just makes the claim.
No, you're trying to explain it, but SFT keeps interrupting.
No, he's making the claim that retroviruses take on function after the fact of the infection, when the retrovirus is not even a virus, it's part of the instruction of the DNA.
What he said. So
Families take priority, Buckaroo.
go ahead. Next question.
Next up, Terry James, thanks for your super chat, says creationism does not predict nested hierarchies. If
This question and answer. I don't want to listen to that. Anyway, that's about it. What time is it? These clocks are crazy around here.
Put it this way, I agree with Mr. Downard. So
You agreed to have no evidence.
he kept getting interrupted.
See, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about this stuff here. We're talking about the science here, this stuff here, and this evidence here. That's what we're talking about.
Okay.
See everybody landed in Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and they all spread out from there. You went all over the world. And where do we find, we got the D. This D. Oh, that's the D is a pale green, is the lime pale green, which is right here, Tibet and Japan, and it's around here too. And the seas, look at where the seas went. See this orange color or whatever color it is? Starts out in Uzbekistan and goes east. Did not go this way, never went this way, never came from this way. Same thing with a D, the Tibets and the Japanese. But they belong to the same family as these people here. But they never went to Africa. Because Nimrod never went to Africa. We know the history of Nimrod. And we know that he was the son of Ham. So that settles that. I think I'm going to cut this short.
Okay.
I don't want to beleaguer the thing here. All right, but thanks for your participation, Ron. Anyway.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So
Later.
all right, later.